For decades, scientists believed the brain had a strict limit. Once brain cells were damaged, they were gone forever. A stroke, trauma, or disease could permanently destroy parts of the brain, and the body simply could not rebuild them. This idea shaped medicine for generations. It influenced how doctors approached aging, memory loss, and neurological disease. But modern research is now challenging that belief. Scientists are discovering that the brain may be far more resilient than we once thought. Under the right conditions, the body can activate repair mechanisms that help regenerate certain neural pathways and support brain recovery. Even more surprising, some of the signals that influence brain health may not start in the brain at all. They may begin somewhere completely different inside the body. In fact, one of the most powerful factors affecting brain health might actually come from the microscopic ecosystem living inside your gut. Before we go deeper into the brain, we need to understand another system that quietly controls many aspects of health: your metabolism. Metabolism is the process your body uses to produce and manage energy. Every time you eat, move, think, or even sleep, your metabolism is working behind the scenes. It determines how your body regulates blood sugar, how efficiently it burns energy, and how well it maintains balance across organs and tissues. For many years, scientists believed metabolism was mainly controlled by hormones and calories. But new research has revealed that another powerful factor is involved. Inside your digestive system lives an enormous community of microorganisms known as the gut microbiome. Trillions of bacteria live there, forming an ecosystem that interacts with nearly every system in your body. These microbes are not just passive passengers. They influence how your body processes nutrients, regulates glucose, controls inflammation, and communicates with your immune system. In fact, researchers now believe the microbiome plays a major role in shaping metabolic health. Certain bacteria appear to improve insulin sensitivity, stabilize blood sugar, and support energy regulation throughout the body. Among these microbes, scientists have become especially interested in one specific bacterium that may play an outsized role in metabolic balance. Its name is Akkermansia muciniphila. Although it is microscopic and invisible to the naked eye, researchers are beginning to believe this bacterium could have an enormous influence on how the body regulates metabolism, weight, and even long-term. Among the trillions of microbes living inside the human gut, a few stand out as especially important for health. Scientists sometimes refer to these as keystone species organisms that play a disproportionately large role in maintaining balance inside a biological system. One of the most fascinating of these bacteria is Akkermansia muciniphila. Discovered only a few decades ago, Akkermansia has quickly become one of the most studied microbes in metabolic research. Even though it makes up only a small fraction of the gut microbiome, its presence appears to have powerful effects on the body. Studies have shown that people with higher levels of Akkermansia tend to have better metabolic health. Researchers have observed links between this bacterium and improvements in several key markers, including lower hemoglobin A, 1C, improved glucose regulation, and increased insulin sensitivity. In simple terms, Akkermansia seems to help the body manage energy more efficiently. It may help stabilize blood sugar levels, support metabolic balance, and improve how cells respond to insulin. But the story doesn't stop there. More recent research suggests that Akkermansia may influence another important system in the body, one that has recently gained global attention in the world of metabolic medicine. This system involves a hormone known as GLP-1. GLP-1 plays a crucial role in regulating appetite, blood sugar, and metabolic function. And scientists are beginning to suspect that certain gut bacteria, including Akkermansia, may help stimulate the body's natural ability to produce it. If that connection is confirmed, it would mean that tiny microbes inside the gut could influence some of the most important metabolic pathways in the entire human body. In recent years, a hormone called GLP-1 has become widely known in the world of metabolic health. GLP-1, or glucagon-like peptide 1, plays a crucial role in regulating appetite, blood sugar, and how the body manages energy. It helps slow digestion, signals fullness to the brain, and improves the way the body responds to glucose. This hormone is the biological target behind many modern weight loss medications. These drugs work by activating GLP-1 receptors in the body, helping people reduce appetite and stabilize blood sugar levels. But An emerging question in science is beginning to shift the conversation. What if the body already has a natural way to stimulate GLP-1 without relying entirely on medication? Researchers are discovering that certain gut bacteria may influence the body's ability to release its own GLP-1. Among these microbes, Akkermansia mucinifila has drawn significant attention. Studies suggest that this bacterium may interact with cells lining the digestive tract and encourage metabolic signals that improve glucose regulation and insulin sensitivity. In other words, rather than artificially triggering the GLP-1 pathway, the microbiome may help support the body's own metabolic signaling systems. This idea is still being studied, but it represents a major shift in how scientists think about metabolism. Instead of viewing hormones and microbes as separate systems, researchers are beginning to understand that they may work together in complex ways. If gut bacteria can influence GLP-1 signaling, they may also affect appetite control, energy balance, and long-term weight regulation. However, the most surprising discovery involving Akkermansia did not come from metabolism research at all. It came from a completely different field, cancer treatment. And the findings were so unexpected that they changed how some scientists began thinking about the relationship between gut health and disease. In 2017, a group of leading scientists gathered in France for an unusual medical conference called Rethinking Cancer. The purpose of this meeting was very different from most cancer research conferences. There was one strict rule. Researchers were not allowed to talk about chemotherapy, drugs, or traditional cancer treatments. Instead, the focus was on something far broader: factors that influence the body's ability to fight disease on its own. Scientists discussed topics like sleep, diet, stress, physical activity, and the growing field of the human microbiome. One presentation quickly became the center of attention. A research team had been studying about 200 cancer patients who were receiving immunotherapy. Unlike chemotherapy, immunotherapy does not directly attack cancer cells. Instead, it activates the patient's own immune system, helping the body recognize and destroy tumors. In some cases, the results were extraordinary. Patients with advanced cancer experienced dramatic improvements, and in rare situations, tumors even disappeared. But there was a major problem. Only about 20% of patients responded positively to immunotherapy. For the other 80%, the treatment produced little or no benefit. This puzzled researchers. Why would the same treatment produce life-saving results for some patients while doing almost nothing for others? Scientists began searching for answers. They examined many possible factors: age, gender, medications, genetic background, and existing health conditions. Yet none of these variables explained the difference between the patients who responded and those who did not. Eventually, researchers decided to look somewhere they had not expected to find the answer. They examined the gut microbiome of the patients. What they discovered there would become one of the most surprising findings in modern cancer research. When researchers began comparing the cancer patients who responded to immunotherapy with those who did not, they expected to find differences in genetics or medical history. After all, those factors are usually the first place doctors look when trying to understand treatment outcomes. But the results were surprising. Age did not explain the difference. Gender did not explain it either. Even genetic background failed to reveal a clear pattern. Scientists examined medications, existing diseases, and lifestyle factors. Yet none of these variables consistently separated the patients who improved from the patients who did not respond to treatment. Then the researchers looked at something most oncologists had rarely considered before. They analyzed the gut microbiome of the patients. Inside the digestive system lives a massive ecosystem of bacteria, trillions of microbes interacting with the immune system every day. These microorganisms constantly communicate with immune cells, influencing inflammation, metabolism, and disease resistance. When scientists compared the microbiomes of the two groups of patients, they discovered something remarkable. Patients who responded positively to immunotherapy almost always had one particular bacterium present in their gut. That bacterium was Akkermansia mucinifila. Meanwhile, many of the patients who did not respond to treatment were missing it. The difference was so striking that it immediately captured the attention of researchers. It suggested that the presence of a single gut microbe might influence how effectively the immune system can recognize and attack cancer. If that idea proves correct, it would mean that the success of advanced cancer therapies may depend not only on drugs or genetics, but also on the invisible microbial ecosystem living inside the human body. And that realization opened the door to an entirely new way of thinking about medicine. To understand why a single gut bacterium could influence cancer treatment, we need to look at how the immune system actually works inside the body. Your immune system is not a single organ. It is a vast communication network made up of immune cells, signaling molecules, and biological pathways that constantly monitor the body for threats. These threats can include viruses, bacteria, damaged cells, and even cancer. One of the most important systems supporting this defense network is circulation. The human body contains nearly 60,000 miles of blood vessels. These vessels form an enormous transportation system that delivers oxygen, nutrients, immune cells, and chemical signals to every part of the body. Immune cells travel through this network like patrol units, constantly scanning for abnormal or dangerous cells. But circulation is not working alone. Scientists are now discovering that the gut microbiome is deeply involved in regulating immune activity. The bacteria living inside the digestive system interact directly with immune cells located in the gut lining. In fact, a large portion of the body's immune system is closely connected to the digestive tract. These microbes help train immune cells to recognize what is dangerous and what is harmless. They also influence inflammation, immune signaling, and how aggressively the body responds to threats. When the gut microbiome is balanced and healthy, the immune system tends to function more efficiently. It becomes better at identifying harmful invaders and responding appropriately. But when this microbial ecosystem is disrupted, a condition known as dysbiosis, the immune system can become confused or weakened. Inflammation may increase, immune responses may become less effective, and the body may struggle to defend itself against disease. This growing understanding is leading many scientists to a powerful realization. Gut health may not just support the immune system. It may help shape how the immune system works in the first place. To understand how Akkermansia mucinifila influences health, scientists first needed to determine where this bacterium actually lives inside the body. Research shows that Akkermansia primarily resides in the large intestine, the lower portion of the digestive system, where trillions of gut microbes form dense microbial communities. More specifically, it tends to concentrate in an area known as the cecum, which is located at the beginning of the large intestine where it connects to the small intestine. The cecum acts almost like a microbial hub. Many beneficial bacteria gather there because it provides a stable environment where nutrients, fibers, and microbial signals accumulate. It is one of the most biologically active zones of the digestive tract. Interestingly, the appendix is also located in this region. For many years, doctors believed the appendix had no real purpose. It was often described as a vestigial organ, a leftover structure from earlier stages of human evolution that no longer served an important role. But that view has changed dramatically. Recent research suggests the appendix may actually function as a storage reservoir for beneficial gut bacteria. When the gut microbiome becomes disrupted, for example, after severe illness or diarrhea, the appendix may help repopulate the intestines with healthy microbes. If this theory is correct, it means the human body may have evolved mechanisms specifically designed to preserve beneficial bacteria like Akkermansia. This discovery highlights something important about the microbiome. The gut is not just a passive digestive tube. It is a carefully regulated ecosystem where bacteria, immune cells, and intestinal tissues interact constantly to maintain balance. And understanding how microbes like Akkermansia survive in this environment may help scientists learn how to support and strengthen this microbial ecosystem in the future. To understand how Akkermansia mucinifila grows inside the human body, scientists asked a simple but important question. What does this bacterium actually eat? The answer turned out to be unusual. Unlike many gut bacteria that rely mainly on fiber or nutrients from food, Akkermansia specializes in consuming mucin, a substance found in the mucus lining of the digestive tract. At first, that may sound unpleasant, but mucus plays a vital role in human health. The intestinal wall is constantly protected by a layer of mucus that acts as a barrier between gut bacteria and the cells lining the intestine. This mucus layer helps regulate microbial balance and prevents harmful organisms from penetrating the intestinal wall. Akkermansia thrives in this environment because it can use mucin as a primary energy source. In other words, This bacterium actually feeds on the mucus naturally produced by the gut lining. But the relationship between Akkermansia and mucus is not harmful. In fact, many researchers believe it may be beneficial. As Akkermansia consumes mucin, it may stimulate the body to produce more mucus, helping maintain a healthy protective barrier inside the gut. This creates a kind of biological cycle. The body produces mucus, Akkermansia feeds on it. The gut responds by producing more mucus, which helps maintain the balance of the microbiome. Because of this relationship, scientists realized that the key to supporting Akkermansia might not involve consuming the bacteria directly. Instead, it may involve encouraging the body to produce the substances that allow Akkermansia to thrive. That discovery led researchers to investigate an important follow-up question. If Akkermansia depends on mucin, what types of foods might help the body produce more of it? Once scientists understood that Akkermansia mucinifila feeds on mucin in the gut, the next logical question was clear. If this bacterium depends on the mucus lining of the intestines for survival, is there a way to encourage the body to produce more of it? The answer appears to lie in certain plant compounds known as polyphenols. Polyphenols are natural molecules found in many fruits, vegetables, and plant-based foods. These compounds are well known for their antioxidant properties, but researchers are now discovering that they also influence the gut microbiome in powerful ways. Some polyphenols appear to stimulate the gut lining to produce more mucin. This creates an environment where Akkermansia can thrive. Scientists have identified several foods that seem particularly effective at supporting this process. One of the most studied is pomegranate, a fruit rich in polyphenols called elagitanins. These compounds can be metabolized by gut bacteria and may help encourage microbial diversity. Cranberries are another example. Dried cranberries contain polyphenols that support beneficial bacteria while also interacting with the gut lining. Researchers have also examined Concord grapes, which contain unique plant compounds that appear to support microbiome health. Beyond fruits, some surprising foods have also been linked to Akkermansia growth. Chinese black vinegar, often used in traditional cuisine, contains fermentation compounds that may influence gut bacteria. Even chili peppers, particularly dried chili flakes, have been associated with changes in the gut microbiome that support beneficial microbes. Finally, certain fruits, such as peaches, contain compounds that may stimulate mucin production as well. While research is still developing, these findings suggest something important. The foods we eat do not just feed our bodies. They also help shape the invisible ecosystem of microbes living inside us. For many years, scientists believed the brain was the command center that controlled nearly every function of the body, including digestion. The gut was viewed mostly as a passive organ that simply processed food and absorbed nutrients. But modern research has revealed a much more complex relationship between the brain and the digestive system. These two systems are connected through a major communication pathway known as the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is one of the longest and most important nerves in the human body. It runs from the base of the brain down through the neck, into the chest, and all the way to the digestive organs. For decades, scientists assumed that signals traveled mainly from the brain down to the gut, directing digestive processes. However, new discoveries have turned that assumption upside down. Researchers now believe that about 80 to 90% of the signals traveling along the vagus nerve actually move upward from the gut to the brain. In other words, the gut is constantly sending information back to the brain. This means the digestive system is not just receiving instructions, it is actively communicating with the brain about what is happening inside the body. Gut microbes appear to be an important part of this communication network. Bacteria in the microbiome produce chemical signals, metabolites, and neurotransmitter-like molecules that can influence nerve activity and brain signaling. Through the vagus nerve, these signals may help shape how the brain responds to inflammation, stress, metabolism, and even emotional states. This discovery has led scientists to describe the gut and brain as part of a single integrated system known as the gut-brain axis. And it suggests that the health of the microbiome may play a far greater role in brain function than researchers once imagined. For a long time, scientists believed that certain parts of the human body were completely sterile. The brain was considered one of the most protected and isolated organs in the body. Because infections in the brain can be extremely dangerous, medical science assumed that no bacteria could live there under normal conditions. But as research tools improved, scientists began to ask new questions. Could it be possible that the brain also contains its own microscopic ecosystem? Recent studies have started to challenge the long-standing belief that the brain is entirely sterile. Researchers examining brain tissue with advanced imaging and genetic analysis have detected traces of microbial presence. These findings are still being investigated, but they suggest that the brain may not be as isolated as once believed. If the brain does host certain types of bacteria, it could dramatically change how scientists understand neurological health. Instead of viewing the brain as a completely closed system, researchers may begin to see it as part of a larger biological network influenced by microbial signals. This idea connects strongly with what scientists already know about the gut-brain axis. The microbiome in the gut produces chemical signals that travel through the bloodstream and the vagus nerve, potentially influencing brain function. If microbial signals can travel from the gut to the brain, it raises an intriguing possibility. Some microbes or their biological signals may help shape processes involved in memory, mood, and cognitive performance. Although this research is still in its early stages, it has already begun to shift how scientists think about brain health. Instead of focusing only on neurons and brain cells, researchers are now considering how microbial ecosystems might influence neurological function as well. And this shift may open entirely new paths for understanding brain aging and disease. As scientists began exploring the connection between the microbiome and the brain, they started discovering that certain bacteria may influence neurological health in surprising ways. One example that has attracted growing attention is a bacterium called Lactobacillus plantarum. This microbe belongs to a large family of beneficial bacteria commonly found in fermented foods and in the human digestive system. Early research suggests that Lactobacillus plantarum may influence brain function through multiple pathways. It appears to help regulate inflammation, produce beneficial metabolic compounds, and communicate with the nervous system through the gut-brain axis. In preliminary clinical studies, researchers observed that certain strains of this bacterium may help slow the progression of neurological conditions such as Parkinson's disease. Parkinson's is a disorder that affects movement and gradually damages parts of the brain responsible for motor control. Although these findings are still being studied, they suggest that gut microbes may play a role in influencing how quickly neurodegenerative diseases progress. Another fascinating bacterium researchers are studying is Lactobacillus reuteri. Unlike many microbes that mainly influence digestion, Lactobacillus reuteri appears to affect the brain by stimulating the release of a hormone called oxytocin. Oxytocin is often referred to as the social bonding hormone. It plays a role in human connection, emotional trust, and feelings of well-being. When people hug, bond with loved ones, or experience positive social interactions, oxytocin levels increase. What makes this discovery remarkable is that certain gut bacteria may help stimulate oxytocin release indirectly through the gut-brain communication network. This suggests that microbes inside the body may influence not only physical health, but also emotional and neurological processes that shape how we experience the world. When people think about longevity, they often focus on things like diet, supplements, exercise routines, or the latest medical breakthroughs. While these factors certainly matter, researchers studying human aging have discovered another powerful influence that is often overlooked: social connection. Large population studies have consistently shown that people who maintain strong social relationships tend to live longer and healthier lives. They often experience lower rates of heart disease, slower cognitive decline, and better overall well-being as they age. At first glance, social interaction might seem unrelated to biology, but scientists are beginning to understand that human connection is deeply tied to our physiology. One of the key biological links involves the hormone oxytocin. Oxytocin is sometimes called the bonding hormone because it is released during moments of trust, affection, and emotional connection. Simple experiences such as hugging someone you care about, sharing meaningful conversation, or feeling supported by a close community can trigger the release of oxytocin in the brain. This hormone helps regulate stress, calm the nervous system, and strengthen emotional resilience. Over time, these effects may help protect the body from chronic inflammation and stress-related diseases. What makes this even more fascinating is the emerging role of the microbiome. As researchers study bacteria such as Lactobacillus reuteri, they are discovering that certain microbes may influence oxytocin production through the gut-brain axis. In other words, the bacteria living inside the digestive system may help shape the biological pathways that support social bonding and emotional health. This connection highlights an important insight about healthy aging. Longevity is not determined by a single factor. Instead, it is shaped by a complex interaction between biology, lifestyle, relationships, and the invisible microbial ecosystems that live within us. For much of modern medical history, bacteria were viewed primarily as enemies. Medical students were taught to memorize lists of harmful microbes and the antibiotics used to destroy them. The basic assumption was simple: bacteria cause disease, and eliminating them protects the body. But science is now revealing a far more complex picture. The human body is not just made of human cells. In fact, trillions of microorganisms live within us, forming an enormous biological ecosystem known as the microbiome. These microbes inhabit the gut, the skin, the mouth, and even areas of the body once believed to be sterile. Rather than being harmful, many of these bacteria perform essential roles that help keep the body functioning properly. They assist in digestion, regulate metabolism, support immune defenses, and communicate with the nervous system. This realization has forced scientists and doctors to rethink many long-standing assumptions about health. Instead of viewing the body as a simple machine made only of human cells, researchers now see it as a complex ecosystem where human biology and microbial life interact constantly. Maintaining balance within this ecosystem may be one of the most important factors influencing long-term health. This is why the study of the microbiome has become one of the fastest-growing areas of medical research. Scientists are exploring how gut bacteria influence conditions ranging from metabolic disorders and immune diseases to neurological health and aging. What we are beginning to understand is that supporting the body's microbial environment may help strengthen the systems that protect us throughout life. In many ways, this represents the beginning of a new era in medicine, an era where understanding the tiny organisms living inside us may help unlock new strategies for improving health, preventing disease, and supporting longevity.